Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session. Greetings from Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, Nellore. I'm Nagamani from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. So today we thought to conclude, but we are extending the session for one more day, that is tomorrow, as per the request of so many participants. So today we'll be having a practice session on CO-PO mappings. And I request our presenter, Mr. Nagpavan sir, to hand over the session. So welcome, sir. Nagpavan sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Today, the focus is primarily on how the mapping is being, that means how the attainments have been calculated here. So I would like to show, because the attainment policy is going to differ from one institution to other institution. Still, it has to be decided at the institution level itself. So for different institutions, we have different ideologies. So accordingly, we have to see that appropriately we have to set the parameter in such a way that at any moment of time, we have to see that the attainment is possible. So the different adjustments have been considered in our earlier sessions. I have shown you. So in one institution, they are following the relative grade. So rather than taking the 60% directly as a cutaway, so they're taking the average marks that are acquired in a particular course as considered as a benchmark. The number of students who crosses that particular average mark is considered for the assessment process. So there are different mechanisms. In some cases, what happens is the students who gains the total 60% is considered for the attainment process. That means the count is considered for the attainment process. Like this here, we have different mechanisms. And the SVCN and many other institutions, I don't know how the conclusion has been come for calculating the CO attainment process. Normally, when you talk about the CO attainment process, you will take the course. That means the direct assessment, and there will be indirect assessment. The direct assessment will be based upon the internal exam, continuous internal evaluation, and followed by the end semester examination. So these are the two things that we are going to consider for direct assessment. In some cases, based upon the viability and the situation, we can consider the technical seminars. That means a part of technical seminar or the quizzes that have been conducted also be considered here. So like this, there are different options we can consider for the direct assessment, but it is always advisable, because without any issues to be arisen with, to curtail all different issues, because the affiliating institutions have very limited powers with respect to the setting of different assessment parameters. So from that particular perspective, even nowadays the autonomous institutions also been curtail all those powers. They have to go as per the university regulations. So from that particular point, what I can say is you will be coming to the particular conclusion. How much percent of the direct assessment is going to be considered, and how much percent of indirect assessment is going to be considered for considering the attainment process. When it comes to the indirect assessment process, we are going to consider the quotient survey. So the quotient survey is the one which is going to help you to a greater extent in coming to the conclusion with respect to what kind of parameters that are being considered. So when you talk about the quotient survey, definitely as per the NAC, we have taken the student feedback. So we have collected the teacher feedback. So these feedbacks can be considered to a certain extent to talk about a survey here. So that is up to the institution level how to take the quotient survey to be considered. And coming to the evaluation process, I would like to show one mechanism which is already been used in Bangalore, Dr. Ranganath Garu. And they designed a very beautiful thing, and allow me to show that one. So it is from a CO. They worked on, he belonged to civil engineering department. I think my screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yeah. So this this is the mechanism what they have followed in building the rubric system and all. So we have the POs that are available with us, and we are going to make the PO attainment process and all. So this is the place, the POs we have, and the verified courses for PO attainments from SAR, because we are talking about NBA accreditation. And the next, observe the quality of COs that we have and verify the assessment. This is a continuous process that happens, and find the assessment methods. There are two different methods, direct as well as indirect. So indirect we always takes from the course surveys, because we are talking about courses here. So primarily we'll be focusing on course and survey only, because the CO attainment is what that is considered. When it comes to direct tools, we take the evaluation of COs and the judgment is based upon the different initiatives. So where we can talk about the project rubrics, because the projects will be there, the assignments will be there, and we're talking about various exam question papers, that too the question papers from the continuous internal evaluation as well as the semester examinations, like that all. So they are going to set certain things, and they have to see the how the targets are being achieved. And if you say student 80% of the students score 60, 80% of score 60%, then they can be considered as a target. So then the same will be sent for the PO attainment process. So this data will be sent for the PO attainment process. And after CO attainment, they'll go with the PO attainment process. And so this is the subject, the topic they're talking about here. So anyhow, we are going to work much in detail tomorrow. And here they have certain POs available with them, and the examinations what they are setting based upon the CO3 and the question what they are framing. So we have the PO1. The PO1 is that one. What it says is talking about the engineering knowledge, where the CO3 what they have is able to understand mixed proportioning techniques for field applications. And the question what they framed accordingly is briefly explain the various methods of, that means explanation means L2, we are talking about understanding. Explain the various methods of mixing proportion techniques. Does this CO reflects the intended measurement of PO1? So PO1 is basically talking about apply the knowledge. Does the assessment correlates well with the CO? So this is what we need to see. What is the CO that we defined, and how the assessment is going to evaluate. So today afternoon, when discussing about, as we discussed yesterday, Nagamani madam shared her course, so that we can have a discussion about the framing of COs and the next going with the POs. Actually, this is a session we need to take up today. And when I look at that particular course, so it is beautifully drafted, no doubt about it. But when you see it, because it's an affiliating university curriculum, because we don't have much more control over that, we need to adopt what the university has given to us. So when I look at that particular course structure, I will show you shortly. But in that particular course structure, excellently, after each unit, they are given the learning outcomes. So nothing but a topic outcomes we can say, because we have the topic level outcomes and the next the course level outcomes. So in our case, we are not using the learning outcomes, but we are saying course outcomes. In other countries like that, they will say the student learning outcomes, or the course level, or the course learning outcomes, or the topic learning outcomes. Like this, it is being considered. But whatever the terminology is, primarily after end of the each course, after end of that particular, after one unit, I have seen three topic level outcomes are mentioned. TLOs we can say. Then next, similarly after unit 2, like this here, every unit very beautifully the drafting is done with respect to how particular evaluation has to be performed. And when it comes to the JNT one on the court R20 regulation, when because unable to access R18, or I don't think R17 regulation, whatever it is. Madam is it R18 or 17?
Sir, R19.
R19 regulation. In R20 regulation, it is very clearly drafted. So along with the outcome, what kind of testing we need to do, the level of the cognitive level is also mentioned, L2, L3, like that. It's a very beautifully drafted. But the thing is here, when it comes for the course outcomes, what we are trying to test is nowhere represented with the course outcomes what we have. See, we are evaluating a student from the perspective of learning outcomes, topic level outcomes. And these topic level outcomes has to be mapped with the course outcomes, because the topics will contribute to the course at the end. But when I try to bring the picture of that particular course, a lot much of gap is being observed. So that's the reason why the presentation with respect to that particular topic is not completed from my side. And I thought better to share this particular content which is useful for you. So that means here clear drafting is there. Many things have been happened, but at the end of the day, the map, that means the mapping with respect to what we drafted is missing, is found missing with that particular course. So this is what does the assessment correlates well with the CO. So we are assessing, no doubt about it, but to what extent it is going to correlate with the CO. So something is mentioned, something is you are testing, and finally the correlation with respect to this at the topic level, it is very clearly mentioned. But when it comes to the course level, it has to be contributed because the semester and examinations are conducted based upon the course outcome, but not on the topic level outcomes. The topic level outcomes has to be kept in mind while considering the course outcomes. So that's where how we need to see. So these particular the program we can call them as the indicators. So somehow these indicators are going to help us in evaluating the COs. So we can consider top level outcomes as the indicators, some kind of the performance indicators. But here the situation is a little bit different. So we should be very cautious from that particular perspective. So in this case, the CO does not reflect the intention of measuring application of either science, maths, or engineering principles. So it's talking about, so here with various methods of mixed proportion techniques. So as far as the civil engineering concerned, the professor says, so the relevance is completely missing. So we can simply say it is so, it is going to be so and so attainment process we are going to consider. So what he says is further the assessment does not test the requirement of application of engineering principles used in mixed proportion as per the PO1. So PO1 is talking about the principles, but here talking about something different. So here, what kind of correlation that we can draw here? The correlation, if you talk about here, the correlation is going to be low, lightly, or we can say slightly or weak. Like that you can consider. Then next, similarly, another scenario, applied design. So another kind of scenario, some question is being given here. So some problem is being involved. So whenever we see apply means that we are talking about the level 3. So application, applying. So in that case, how the scenario is going to happen with respect to the PO that is considered here. So it is with the PO2. So how it is going to be considered here? So the PO strength considered good for PO1 as engineering principles are used to arrive at fixed proportion. Similarly, however, the assessment does not test the students to identify, formulate, only apply, identify, formulate some. So this kind of things are found missing here. So based upon the terminology that the words that we are using. So the strength of mapping of CO3 to PO2 or PO3 in the above example is not, above example cannot be considered good. That's what the conclusion drawing here. Then similarly, when you go with another situation, able to analyze characteristics of misconstraints and design of concrete mix for field applications. So some assessment, some kind of a problem is designed here, and ECO reflect the intended measurement of PO2 and PO3. So we need to assess it. In this case, the students expected to identify and formulate. So this is the basic thing that you're looking at, and the workability required to manufacture such precast models. So the assessment correlates well with the CO, hence maps strongly to PO2 and PO3. So like this here, we need to work a lot in working with this one. Then next, another one here. Okay, fine. Which we can do anyhow tomorrow's session. And we are talking about different. I will share this particular presentation as a guide, which can be done and which cannot be done, like the do's and don'ts, which is going to help you in doing this. So the topic level objective, the course 3. So the CO3 describes structure of drinking water supply system, design of component system, water treatment facilities, able to estimate dosage of chlorine required for disinfection of water. So this is a topic level. At the topic level, outcome is being learning outcome is considered here. So this has to be get mapped with CO3. That is what we need to use when we are designing. When you are designing a particular problem or a question, we should be very cautiously address this particular. Somehow this TLO has to be get mapped with the COs that we consider. So if the mapping is not done, then all are going to be kept aside. So the attainment process is going to be affected a lot. So in this case, students are expected to apply the knowledge of math, science, because talking about PO1. So apply my knowledge of math, science, and subject specialized. Hence, assessment is in line with CO and hence to the PO1. The strength of correlation is good as engineering and domain fundamentals are used to arrive solution to the problem. So that's what the professor talks about. And similarly, you can go with another example. So describe structure of drinking water supply system, design the component system of water treatment facilities. The TL was able to estimate the chlorine demand and residual chlorine content for water supply sample through lab experiments. So here it is assumed to be mapping with P1, PO1, PO2, PO3, PO6, and PO7. So accordingly, so we need to check to what extent it is being covered. So some assessment question is being given. In this case, the students are expected to identify and formulate the problems to collect samples from said location, conducting experiments at laboratory. This assignment question also calls for analysis, interpretation of experimental data to arrive solutions to the problem. So, and he also says that try to carry out the experiment, students have to carry literature work to know procedures prescribed by the manuals or the standard codes of the industry. Since the students at the end of the experiment ensures that the potability of the water to the public, the same problem correlates to PO2, PO4, and PO6. So like this here, we have to come to the particular conclusion. That means we'll talk about and what is introduction. So when you take a course, there are three things that we need to keep in mind. So what is introduction? So how a particular topic is, that means if you take a CO, that CO with respect to the POs, the 12 POs that we have. So is it an introduction with respect to the topic that you're dealing with? So if it is an introduction, obviously when you look at the POs talks about whether able to use or whether able to understand. When you're talking about understand, okay, here also we are taking that understanding, no problem. It is a high level mapping. But when you're talking about investigating, so in investigating, or we'll be talking about very high level designing of such a particular system. So when you go for the designing of a system in such case, so a proper analysis is required. So they have to go up to level 5, level 4, and level 5. And we are talking about a question, taking about understanding of it. So in such case, what happens is we are looking at understanding of a concept, and we are taking a PO, which is talking about the designing, formulating of models and all. So formulating of models is a high standard learning procedure, and the CO that you have is talking about understanding, or they are talking about better to apply some simple methods. So simple methods in the sense it is not so going to highly associated with any of the POs that are available. So that we need to consider that one as a slightly, that means low, or you can say as 1. We can take the value 1 or L or S, whatever the mechanism we are going to follow, we can follow, and based on that we can give the low. But there is some question, as we have seen right now here. We are making certain things to design. So we need some existing system, and from that system, we are trying to develop a new one, and that one, the students has to experiment it and give the results. So that means here it has the synthesizing problems, it has the develop application. That means here it's a very high standard question. So that means we are almost it is of level 6. So when it is of level 6, then definitely they have to see that the question that we are looking at is for designing certain things by using certain analysis. So such analysis is mandatory, without which it's not possible. If required, we have to conduct certain research problems also. That means research literature survey is also required. So after that only, because why the research survey is required, the reason is here, when you're applying certain problems, especially in civil engineering, these situations encountered in civil engineering, electrical engineering, electronics engineering, they have the industry specific codes that are particularly in civil engineering, industry specific codes are available. So we have to follow the codes. The students normally in the education system, the codes are very, they are being given to, they have been imparted to the students only to the need, not to a greater extent. But we are formulating such a question where the high-end consideration is being taken into that. In such case, what happens is the student feels not much of what we call separated, because the reason is here, the question talks about something high level and the curriculum is being mentioned something different, then it is a very difficult to match the things. So that should not be there. So what kind of PO that you are going to map? So if it is designed with respect to the design, say it is high, or otherwise let us keep that as moderate. That or it is low. So we can say, we can come to this conclusion like this. There are 3 simple steps that you can say. Introduce. Is this an introduction topic with respect to the PO? So we look at the PO, the nouns and the verbs that you are using in that one. By looking at it, we can come to the conclusion. is our CO an introduction with respect to the PO? The PO talks about the attainment level. That means the high level of engineering, engineering thing, what the student is supposed to demonstrate, the competencies the student is supposed to demonstrate, or the graduate is supposed to demonstrate. So from that side, if it is slight, that means our topic is introduction based, and we are talking about something high. So anyhow, though it is introduction, it is mandatory. Without the introduction, nobody can reach that particular level. So here, what kind of mapping that we have here is, it is very slight moderation because it's an introduction. Sometimes what we would like to have is, we are going to have moderate. Sir, how can you say it is moderate? The reinforcement, if we have a concept of reinforcement, so adding of one or more things to the existing ones and making it as another one. So if we have that kind of reinforcement mechanism of topic in the CO with respect to the PO, then we can consider that one as a moderate. And then next, the completely is advanced. We are talking about the total high level achievement of this particular PO. So we are talking about modern usage of tools. When you talk about modern usage of tools, so what kind of tools that you are going to use? Let us take an example. A student is asked to demonstrate, to design a project for a bridge. So if you want to make a student to work on a particular bridge, what kind of tool the student is going to use for the strength analysis? So do the student using any traditional methods, or the student using any modern tools that are available? Okay, we are talking about designing, but in the examination, if it is a project, we can talk about directly. It is highly associated because it's a very high level implementation using a modern tool uses. But we are asking a strength of a particular beam that is used, that we have in a bridge. In such cases, it's a little bit different. So here we will be just looking at the basic principles here. The basic principles means an introduction level. So there is a lot much of difference. Introduction, reinforcement, and the high level consideration. So high level means advanced consideration. So when you have, so what kind of the CO that we have? Is it talking about what kind of learning level and what kind of association that you like to see with the PO? Both need to be looked at. And once it has been there, so there is a mapping of both, then we say, yes, both are having high correlation. We can say it is as high correlation as 3. Sir, this kind of calculation, it is not much of time. Yesterday, I have shown you one probability method. We can adopt that particular probability method. But the working with the probability is not so easy because lot many things that we need to identify, and we have to bring the correlation, the mapping, and we have to do some calculations. We will come to it. If it is really possible, we can do it. Otherwise, the simplest method is, so take an Excel book and write the COs that you have and write all the 12 POs that you have. Now, if it is introduction based, okay, how the PO is talking about? Is it an introductory PO or it is talking about a moderate PO? That means to what level it has to be. And based on that, you get 1, 2, 3. If nothing is associated, yes. For example, if you take in the first year, for every student, we are going to teach computer programming and data structure, CPDS, shortly it is called as. So when you are teaching that particular course, in this particular course, in the first CO, normally we talk about the understanding of fundamentals. So we will be having the C programming fundamentals. If we are using Python, so we will be using Python language. That depends upon how we are taking. So in that particular course, if you look at from the perspective of a civil engineering student, it is different. The student for the perspective of electrical student is different. Then the perspective of a computer science student, it is going to different. So what actually happens is this CO is going to be given as a common thing. But when you are giving a CO for CPDS, we should not keep that CPDS is imparted only to the computer science engineering students. It is common to all the engineering students. From that particular perspective, the CO has to be designed. So we have to see that the fundamentals are been the student able to understand the concepts, the fundamental concepts of the C language program, the constructs or the basics. So that means here, when you go with the PO1, the PO1 talks about the knowledge about engineering. Somehow the allied engineering concepts, what they are learning are getting now. Only that one we need to see. When you go with the ethics, so when you talk about ethics, to what extent the ethics are going to be imparted to the student here? So the CO1 is talking about that too, one course in the first year talking about the COs. So these COs are nowhere is going to compare with the others because these COs are nowhere compared with the ethics or they are nowhere compared with the communication, very lowly compared with the communication. because they are not going to write any reports. When you go for level PO11 and PO12, so we are talking about a CO1 where we are talking about acquiring a knowledge and projecting the same during the assessment process. In such case here, how the lifelong learning and how the modern tool uses are going to come into picture here, how the communication part comes into picture here, the project management and finance. These things are nowhere concerned here. There is no correlation that you are going to have there. So based upon that, introduction, reinforcement, and advanced concept. So based upon these three, we can come to the conclusion of mapping of CO with a particular PO. I take a PO1 and I will take my CO1. Both are going to be compared as I just shown here. So the expected question, how would like to be? Based upon that, we can come to the conclusion. And moving to it, so some more examples are mentioned here. And he tried to bring, so how the assessment is going to be taken care of. Then next, this comes the actual assessment process for DSS course. This is the DSS course talking about here. And certain mechanisms. Here, the grading scale, they are followed. If a student, the grading scale less than 40% considered as 1, 40 to 60 equal to 40 and less than 60 considered as 2, greater than or equal to 60 considered as 3. And they have 4 COs as per the course structure, as per the course curriculum they have. And they are conducting 3 tests and 2 quizzes and 1 laboratory for that particular course. Here, the lab is weeded out because the lab is not considered here, only the theory part is considered. Now, when you look at here, the T1, the test 1 that you are conducted, there are question 1 and question 2. And question 1, question 2 deals with the CO1 and CO2. And whereas the question 3 and question 4 deals with the CO4. And when in the T2, the second examination that is conducted, question 1 and question 2 in that particular question paper are mapped with CO2, and question 3 and question 4 mapped with CO4. So that means here the CO3 is going to be considered in a separate manner here. That means here this is going to be tested in a different form. So CO3 is nowhere been evaluated here. They're not considering it. So this is the, and when it comes for the CO4, it is mentioned there. So in T1, that means in the test 1 or the terminal test, whatever it is, there are 2 questions which we need to consider. For T2, 2 more questions are to be considered. If you look at here, each question carries 12.5, 12.5, 12.5. Each question is given for the maximum. So the total marks is 50. The student is supposed to answer the questions here. 2 questions they're supposed to answer whatever the marks they are supposed to gain here. So they are taking off. In our case, what happens is here the 4 questions are mandatory. That means there it may contain. Now there is another situation that comes into picture. When you talk about a question, it is holistic. It is complete. But sometimes what happens is some people want to separate it. So they want to see that there is question for question 3 contains A and B. Whatever it is, A and B both are considered in total as question 3. Or if you want to separate them, you separate them from the beginning, because you have to see that your question paper should always contains A and B questions in all the courses. But some people will say that, sir, in our course it is not possible to have A and B, in some courses not possible. So you come to a conclusion and consensus that where A and B are required, where A and B are not required. So instead of having a big debate of this, simple thing is whether you have A and B or ABCD or ABCDE, whatever it is, all put together consider as only one course. So you put all the totals as 1 and consider that one as a course. Now, here a student is expert. Here, if you look at one student called Madhukar, and this student has written for 3 questions, and he got 25 marks out of 50. So what is the marks that have been attempted by the student? So the total marks attempted by student is 37.5, and out of 37.5, the student got 25 marks. So the percentage of the attempt, the percentage of what kind of marks that he got out of what the questions has been attempted is 66.67. Now, based upon, we want to give some grades. So how the grades are going to be given? Because we already taken a scale. As per the scale, what we have is we discussed, and more than 60% considered as 3. So here automatically the 3 is considered. So more than 60% considered as 3. Similarly, so one student here, Vijay Kumar, his student has attempted, the total marks got is, he attempted all the 4 questions. Out of 4 questions, what happens? 26 he got. So the total marks attempted become 50, and the percentage dropped to less than 60. If the student has not attempted this question, then there is a possibility of more attainment level. See, this is the one, this is the place where our students need to, so to see that the better attainment levels are being to be obtained, we have to see that the students has to attempt very judiciously. The judicious just attempting the question, there is a possibility of coming down of our scores. So here, there, if the student is not associated with this particular T1 Q3 and T1 Q4, the percentage of the marks attempted by student become 25. So here what happens is only it will 25 and it's not 50. So 25 out of it becomes only 100%. So if it is 100%, it becomes attainment, the score that is associated with this become 3. Then there is a contribution of this student to the CO, because we considered only the students who got 3 are considered for the attainment process. So here this student is weeded out in the attainment process. So this candidate participation has been lost because of this particular 2 questions he tried to attempt. So this is the one where we are going to lose the things. Our students should also be in a position to see, and when if any evaluator is much interested to see the COs, they will definitely focus on this. So they will ask us, can you kindly get the CO attainment chart what you have been used? So if they look at this one, so these are the things where we feel that the students are being lost from participation. So the student is not participated here in the attainment process. Why? Because he is not the particular level, only because the student is not student attended these 2 questions, because of which the total marks attempted by the student has been increased enormously. So this is the way how we are going to lose the attainment process is going to affect. Similarly, if we go further, so like this process will go on, and we will try to identify all the students in the particular class. So then next, out of 154, 46 students has got 46 students have been reached the total acceptable score of 3. So on a 3 point on a particular scale of what is the average grade that we have. So the average grade that you got is 2.8 here. So only 46 students. If you take the total percentage, a little bit low, but average grade, by taking all the average grades, we have 2.8 here. You should see that somehow this value has to be increased in some manner, so that this average grading can be improved a lot. And we can also have the more participations here. Then next here, now the COs, all the COs are being considered, and now we can see. So it's only one. We are talking about one CO. So here, this is another example. Like we can consider 3 COs are considered, and as the process shown earlier, so all the 3 COs values, average COs values, are being obtained for a point for it on a 3-point scale. Out of which, how many students are able to get the 49 here? So 57. So total the percentage is 85.76 of having the distribution percent. So this much of percent of distribution we have for the scale 3. Like this here, scale CO2. Like this here, only these percentages we need to consider. And coming down here, so CO1, how much you got? Scale 85.96. So what we can say is CO1 attained? Yes, because it is greater than 85%. All comes under the 3. So that's the reason why we consider the CO1 has been attained. Similarly, the CO2 is also attained because greater than 60, as we mentioned here. So more than 60% considered as the CO attainment, all contributing to the complete the course. Okay. So like this here on a 3-point scale, this is the graph that has been drafted. Now here, how this, okay, the COs have been computed, fine, the excellent, it is completed. Now the job is here, how they have to be distributed. We are talking about the correlation process. So yesterday we have seen how the correlation has to be established between the CO and the PO. Anyhow, we are going to see one more time in a detailed way with respect to the course curriculum of the JNT Anandapur for a particular computer science course. And now here, the different courses are available, and analysis of structures 2 is one course. In this course here, we have the 2 COs. Let us say why they are having 2 COs. We're not going to question that. Let us see that they have only the 2 COs. Out of the 2 COs, maybe the other COs are not attained. That also we can consider. But they have to consider at any cost. Here, let us say we have only the 2 COs. So the percentage of attainment is 86%. And now here, PO1 is 86% and PO2 is also 86%. So that means here, this CO is correlated with these 2 POs. In what fashion it is correlated? It is correlated very highly. It is correlated very highly. That's the reason why the exact percentage is totally mapped to 86 and 86. Now, similarly, the 78 also. That means it is highly mapped. That means value of 3 or high, whatever it is, we can consider. Here they are using the 3-point scale. We can say 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you see here, 85.96 for environmental engineering 1, this is CO1. CO1 is the attainment level is 85.96. And is the CO result is acceptable? Yes, more than 60% as the benchmark set, fine. And how this 85.96%, that means 85.96 means totally it is 96%. How this has to be distributed? Now, on observation, what we observed is the CO1 is correlated in some manner with PO1, PO2, PO3, PO4, but not with PO5, PO6, PO7, PO8, but not with PO9, and but with PO10. So with 4 POs, it is not correlated, but with 8 POs, it is correlated. But they are not correlated directly. So they are correlated in different fashions, maybe slightly or maybe moderately or very high, or 1, 2, and 3. So how we need to consider? So the percentage distribution is being done. So if you look at here, so this is high correlation 3. That means 86% considered directly 86%. And similarly, if you look at the PO2, the value that has been rounded here, 57%. So this 57% is nothing but the second, the moderately correlated. So moderately correlated is nothing but 86% into 2 by 3. So the value correlation, total correlation. Then next, it is totally 85. PO3 is 29. That is nothing but 86 divided by 20. It is divided by 3. So that is what we are doing. That means based upon the correlation, the percentage of distribution is going to be considered with the PO. That means the entirely 86% is not included into the PO. Earlier days, we used to have this kind of calculation, but today, because of the slight, medium, that means moderate and high, we are not going to take the total percentage of attainment of CO into the PO. No, we are not doing that. We are distributing that particular value based upon how the correlation is happening of a CO with respect to the PO. So if it is 3, 86%, 86% directly it is being done. So the highly correlation, the moderate correlation is observed with the PO2. PO2 is having 57% and PO10 is also 56%, 57%, indicating that these two POs are moderately correlated. When you look at the 29% at PO3, it indicating that it is slightly correlated. That's the reason why the contribution of CO1 to this particular PO3 is only 29%, 1/3 of it. Like this here, all the correlations are being, using the correlations, the values are being distributed. So if you look at the highway engineering, CO2, 100%. So all the students have been attained very successfully. So in the case, except the PO8, whatever it has been mapped, all the POs are having very good high, that means high correlation. That's the reason why the all are given with 100%, 100% like that. But it's not the case with the PO8. It is a little bit different. So that means here it may be nearly moderately correlated. As it is moderately correlated, only it is obtained of 67%. Like this here, if you look at the entire process here, like the vertically of all the POs, somehow, so for an entire program, so all the POs are being considered and the average, the attainment process is taken. So each PO attainment is considered here. So the only PO based upon only mid examinations, only the mid examination, nothing is being considered. Okay, we are not taken any quotient survey, we are not taken any other surveys direct, only the internal examinations are contributed to the PO attainment process. That's it. And you may raise one question, sir, what happened to the remaining things? So that is the beauty of this particular assessment mechanism. And we can, if you look at the PO attainments, definitely the PO attainments are going to be more than 60% as we do. So obviously all the POs are more than 60% excellent. They may consider it as excellent and they need to rework on. So how better we can improve the remaining COs where the value lagging has been existing. We can see here CO2 35%, no correlation, because as there is no correlation, obviously there is no contribution of 35%. This 35% is nowhere correlated because here maybe the CO2 is not considered here. Then next, how the exit survey has to be included. So exit survey says the program exit survey, this is called, and we can, because we are talking about POs here, this exit survey is going to be taken. They are going to ask certain questions on the different 12 POs. So the PO description and the exit survey questions are being given here. And like this here, they will have the 12 questions. Here the sample, it is they have shown only the 5 questions. So for each question, there will be some grading on point scale 0 to 5. So how many students here, if you look at here, total number of students participated are 25. So the number of students was given 5, 16 number. So we have to do some analysis on the feedback, the analysis that you obtain, the analysis, and the number of students given 4 or 14 like this here. In total, it goes to, so 2 plus 3, 5, 5, 19, 19, 6, 25. The total students are 25. The total matches. Excellent. Then next year, now we are going to see how the second question. Now the weighted average is calculated, the percentage. So on a 4-point scale, how much is the student is been get obtained with respect to the PO is 76%. It is quantified to percentages. So all are being quantified to percentages. So 76% PO2 like this here, different POs attainment process, the PO percentage with respect to the exit survey are being computed here. Then next we'll have the end semester examination. So when it comes for the end semester examination, the marks are considered here. The marks are directly being applied to the various POs. So wherever they are been getting mapped, they are being mapped here directly, irrespective of their weightages. They are being just given to all the POs wherever they are being get mapped here. So they are not taking as a slightly more mapped or moderately mapped or moderately correlated or highly correlated. So they're not looking at the particular perspective. They're looking at the distribution of the mark, because here in the end semester examination, all different types of considerations will be taken. So that's the reason why here they thought that it is not advisable to differentiate that one. That's the reason why. So all the, because we are not evaluating a question wise. We got the marks and those marks are considered here, and the average marks. This is average. Let us consider the 70 highway engineering 72%, indicating that this average marks of the entire class. So this entire class has to be considered here. So not the single student, the entire average is considered, that is being given here. If you look at the design of steel structures, the total average is only 56%. So 56% means we cannot distribute these values, because 60% is the minimum that we need to consider. So we can remember 59, 50, if you remember analysis of structures here, allow me to go to back here. So if you see analysis of structures, the PO, it is mapped, the CO1 is mapped with PO1 as well as PO2, and the CO, obviously the CO8 is also mapped with PO1 and PO2. When it comes for the calculation here, analysis of structures, so the PO1 and PO2 is not coming to picture. The reason behind is it is not attained the minimum average, that is 60%. As a 60% is not attained, so obviously these two are not considered for the PO process with respect to end examinations. So here the end examinations which the COs come, which the POs are considered, not directly with the COs. So they're not included with the COs. Then next here, so this is the summary of results attainment of PO attainment. So they consider the direct assessment, and the next the student exit survey, course and survey. Now the course and survey averages are taken. The faculty survey also included, semester and examination of 30%, all put together the 100%. The major percentage is given to the direct assessment. So even the second highest is given to the semester and examination, 50-30, and remaining exit survey 10, course and survey 5, and the faculty survey also 5. All are being included very aptly in the PO attainment process. And each PO, if you look at here, mostly all the POs are more than 60%. So that indicates that every PO has contributed well in the attainment process. So that means that, so when it comes for the entire batch process, so that means all the entire batch of BTech Civil Engineering or BE Civil Engineering, whomever you are talking about, for that entire engineering batch, for that particular year, that means for that 4 years of period, their POs are excellently been obtained here. So obviously these students have greater capability in contributing to the society. So that's the way how this particular conclusion is being arrived with respect to the PO. Then next, after 4 to 5 years, immediately you can go with the, after 4, we can go with the PO attainment process by obtaining feedbacks from the employers or the stakeholders like that. And we can go with the PEO attainment program educational objectives. And immediately by using these values, we can also calculate the PSOs, program specific outcomes. And we can also compute them. We can see how better the students are able to work themselves or exhibit themselves as the true professionals in the respective domains of engineering in the industry. So like this here, we can come to this particular calculation conclusion. And this process is going to be evaluated time by time, and sometimes the evaluators are going to be very generous, and sometimes the evaluators are going to be a little bit stringent with respect to assessing the evaluation process. They will ask to see how the evaluation is being done. So we have to show our Excel file, our work is required. We need to show them. Then next year, so the obviously we'll have the continuous improvement process that always exists. So it's already more than the time as given to me. Today also I took 8 minutes additionally.
So thank you, sir. So any queries
Any questions,
from the participants?
Madam, one thing I would like to iterate, madam, before going for
sir.
it.
Sir.
So to work better with your Excel, your file, because is the mid-examination question paper format same for all the branches in your institution?
Yes, sir. In R19.
So, irrespective of regulation. So if you go with, because for everyone,
Yes, sir,
if it is
yes, sir.
going same pattern, it's not a problem. Otherwise, it will be because the CO mapping is going to differ from one institute, because we are not followed. That means the university has
Yes,
not
sir.
followed unit to CO. They are given certain COs, and
Yeah.
it is your responsibility to check how the COs are mapped. So that is a problem
Yes.
you're supposed to. And as I told you, they'll share my
Yeah,
thoughts.
even in my course,
Yes, because just now I told
yes,
the faculty members that I will show them. So it is nobody's fault, because sometimes it happens. Slowly in the subsequent days, we need to correct it. Every time we will expect that in the beginning itself, everything is not going to be the same. Madam, is it okay? Don't take it in a different way. So because anyhow, I'm going to discuss about this. And
yeah, okay,
it
sir.
is not your course, madam, actually. It is
Sir.
everyone's course. As I told you here, so
Yes, sir.
there it's a unit outcomes. We can say, you can call them as the topic level outcomes. Also, you can say TLOs. So when you are testing a student with respect to this particular unit in continuous internal evaluation, so it is better to focus on these COs. Obviously, we are going to frame the questions by looking at these COs, not the TLOs, so topic level outcomes. So I came to know that normally in most of the JNT institutions, the same thing will happen. So the same happens with you also. First 2.5 units are considered for the first mid examination, and the remaining 2.5 units are considered for the second mid examination. So based upon that, if you see here, for second unit, we are also having certain outcomes. There are 3 outcomes mentioned. So as that means every unit we are having 3 topic level outcomes have been observed. So when it comes to the unit 3 here, a little bit of complexity has been considered here, because the unit has been split into 2 parts. So first part is considered for the first mid examination, second one for the second mid examination. So we are talking about exception handling. Maybe the other engineering branches, we will look at the words. So learn what exceptions are and how they are being handled. So mechanism of handling exceptions is what we are going to test with respect to the student when you talk about the assessment. And now here the mapping is the critical thing that we need to focus on. Fine, anyhow. Then next, if we go at the next one, the second one is also talking about exception handling. That means 2 topic level outcomes are getting mapped with exception handling concept that is being delivered to the students. And learn the difference of various files and streams. This is only one topic level outcome that is associated with a very important one. So it is depends upon how the strength you would like to add particular concept and the TL1. Fine, everything is good. Now when it comes to the course outcomes, when it comes to the course outcomes here, so to solve real world solving problems using object oriented concepts, OOP techniques, so obviously it goes to the unit 1. And then applying code reusability through inheritance packages and interfaces, obviously it goes with the 2. But when it comes for the exception handling and all, so we are making to rely on a very strong component called Java collection framework, which is a very, very huge one. we're not dealing this particular topic into anywhere in that particular unit. So that means this mapping, that means the mapping of this particular TL was what we discuss now. It is becoming very difficult. We can map them, but here to what extent they're getting mapped is very limited. It is mentioned as Java collection framework, the entire system. So are you importing, are you teaching entire system? No, not at all. If it is an entire collection framework, that means here there are certain scenarios where we need to be very cautiously addressed. So while working with your questions, we should be very cautiously look at the outcomes as well as the topic level outcomes. You have to see whether they have been mapped or not. So if they are getting not mapped, make them mapped. That's the only solution we have, because it is not mentioned. We need to rely on, there is no exception handling mechanism being considered in this solving to solve problems using Java collection framework and IO classes. And so we have a Java collection framework topics later on. It is also available. So this is the collection framework. Nowhere we talk about exceptions here. So it's a very unfortunate thing. So the mapping is going to be very, very difficult here. Frankly, to one perfectly, if you try to work, it is very difficult. But still, we have to see that the things are being done. So in such case, we need to see that they are getting mapped. So that is some adjustment, because the curriculum is not in our hands. Whatever the university has given, we have to follow that. And if you look at the mid-examination question papers, so normally first, when we look at a systematic procedure here, we will see CO1, CO2, CO3. Excellent, no doubt about it. But when you go to the mid, when you go with the mid 2, the scenario is different. We have CO4, we got CO3, CO3, CO5, CO6, CO7. The mapping is going to be very, very critical here. While building your Excel files, so that means from one course to another course, it becomes very difficult. That means the faculty who worked on developing their own the course attainment Excel file is not going to be the same with the other faculty, because there is a lot much of difference that we observe. These COs are not going to get mapped properly. So if you have 5 units, 5 course outcomes, whatever the structure you design, that is going to be mapped with every course that have been imported, then that will be very easy for you to work. And subsequently, we can change that. So once you have the higher levels, anyhow, I wish, so in the coming years, as NAC is also available with you, you are going to get good score because of the teamwork of yours and academic advisor, sir, and the management. I hope a good grade with you. So once you have a good grade, then definitely you have an advantage of applying for the autonomous status. Definitely. At this level, we can have a more work of designing your own course curriculum, avoiding this kind of hazards. So then competition process will become very easy. That's what I would like to share. And every course will be having this kind of glitches. But anyhow, my advice is, so don't get panic with that one. So take the time, and if unable to complete, take the help of your peers or inform the same to the authorities, so that nothing is going to happen. We will take, instead of 1 hour, it will be completed in 2 hours. That's it. But it is going to complete at any cost. So that's the way how we need to be brave enough to work with this OBE mechanism, especially doing our CO attainment process here. So tomorrow's session, we will be working much more on we'll be working on the CO-PO correlation process in 2 different ways, 2 possible different ways, so that that will give you the more insights how the attainment process can be take forward with respect to COs as well as the POs in terms of the POs or POs, whatever the institution is demanding. So I would like to end the session, and now it is over to Magma.
So thank you, sir. We've thrown a great burden on you. And so participants, if you have any questions, please ask. So tomorrow we are going to have a practice session on COPO mapping on JNTU course. So thank you, Nagpavan sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
I should thank the
thanks
participants
everybody.
also.
Yeah.
For their patience, in listening to me.
It's your effort, sir. We are lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We'll meet tomorrow by the same time, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Sir.
Thank you.
So participants can leave.